Good morning and welcome to The Art of Composition. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. I thought I would look at a winter scene by Thomas Kegler. And I'm from New York, so I'm pretty familiar with all that white stuff. But anyway, let me show you a few things about this painting before I drop the harmonic armature on top of it. You have a dominant vertical right here. You have a dominant horizontal that is roughly in this area here. And you have a dominant diagonal line which runs there. And as I try to mention, when you're analyzing art or if you're creating art using the harmonic armature, drop a few dominant lines and build upon that slowly. You can learn a lot from just dropping a few lines. And in the book Classical Painting Atelier, that's what Juliet recommends when you first start learning this information. Start simple. You have to start simple and then just build as you get better. All right, so let me drop the harmonic armature and I'll show you where he's getting some of these lines. If you're not familiar with Thomas Kegler's work, go to thomaskegler.com. I listened to a podcast of his the other day. He's really an interesting guy. Has a lot of experience and he's done a lot of different things. It was a plein air podcast. I have it on my website. If you go to my art highlights page, you can find it there, or you can go to thomaskegler.com. He has it listed on his website as well. That dominant horizontal line I had mentioned, that's coming from this center line there. Just point that out. It's interesting because Thomas Kegler, his PDFs inspired me to simple my own user's guide. I realized by reading his short PDFs of how much you can learn or how little you need to get started in learning more about the harmonic armature. And it really did. It really inspired me to look at my own teachings, my own user's guide to say, hey, you know what? I got too much information in there. So next week, I had mentioned this before earlier, I'm going to be eliminating that user's guide and writing another one. It's only going to be about 50 pages or so. I really want to simplify it because I have a lot of videos now and most of my teachings are in the videos anyway. So might as well model his PDFs and try to write one of my own that will, supplement his. If you're not familiar with the harmonic armature and this is your first time to my website, I do talk about it quite a bit. It's my favorite system of design. Dynamic symmetry is a wonderful tool, but I don't find it as enjoyable. But anyway, there are two really good systems of design out there. I do recommend starting with the harmonic armature first. All right, so I have the grid drawn out. Let me just point out a few things. You have, I had mentioned a subordinate series of diagonal lines, and those are sort of right in here. I'll just bring that one over. That dominant diagonal line is coming from this diagonal line here. You have these patches of darker area. You can drop a horizontal line there. It runs through that one. And another one here where that series of diagonal lines intersects. And then you have another one right here. So he's creating these horizontal patches of dark area using divisions in the armature of the rectangle. Wherever you have two diagonal lines intersect, you can drop a horizontal or vertical line. You have that dominant vertical that I had mentioned with the tree trunk. That is coming from right here. That's where that dominant vertical is coming from. I had also mentioned you have a subordinate diagonal line. It's coming from this diagonal line in the armature as well. But also notice here how the branches are following these diagonal lines too. In other words, I could also drop a diagonal line right here at this point. There. All right, let me get that out of the way though. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to highlight these dominant lines in blue and just point out a few things. All right, so I'll change that to blue, thicken up the line, and solidify it. All right, so you have that dominant horizontal here. You have that dominant diagonal line running along here, along the water, then it runs up here. You have that vertical right here. And you have some subordinate diagonal lines being played out along these areas as well. And you have this subordinate diagonal line running along this tree area here. Now, of course, you have a few other divisions that I had mentioned. You have this one, and then this one, these dark patches here. And I'll bring that there. Let me drop a few more lines here. When I drop these, and again, these are part of the armature. I'm picking up angles in that as well. But also, just to point out, I don't want to break this down too far, but I can drop a vertical here. It encloses as part of the trunk at that point, and I just want to stress these horizontal lines right there, that one. I think that's going to be it for today, though. I don't want to overwhelm the viewer, but let me, before I end the day, just eliminate the grid so you can see what's going on here. I'm trying not to break an image down too far because I don't want to overwhelm the viewer, but you can see some of these dominant divisions coming into play. Vertical, horizontal, and diagonal lines. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it, as always.